Hello everyone, it's me again, Mobius Y. I'm back. Sorry, but you can't get rid of me that easily. I'm just kidding. Anyways, like I said in the ELC video previously, I was going to highlight a few tanks down the BatChat line. So I'm jumping past the AMX 12T straight to the AMX 1375. This was another tank that piqued my interest. So jumping right into some gameplay here. As you can see, we're on Coralia. And yeah, we won this game fairly painlessly, but I'm going to attribute that to the fact that a third of their team was dead within the first minute. As you can see here, there's a Hellcat that is just bum rushing for whatever reason. There's a T-20 sitting out there getting blasted. There's another heavy tank in the further back there, and I ammo rack this Panzer 38 NA. Spoiler alert. So right off the bat, you can see the sniping capabilities of the AMX 1375. The gun is accurate enough to where you can shoot from a long distance and hit your target. Now, the question is, can you hit the weak points, and does it have enough pen to damage them? To a degree, yes or no. These soft armored targets, like the light tanks and whatnot, that's not a problem. I do have the final gun package for the AMX 1375 here. I believe the alpha is 140, and I don't remember what the penetration is, but the penetration is an improvement over the previous two guns for the AMX 1375. But even then, you're still basically resorting to taking out soft armor and shooting at the flanks and rears of more heavily armored opponents. So that's basically how it works out. Now, another thing to note that this is still a light tank, so scouting is your primary function, and that's pretty easy to do with the AMX 1375. For this little tier 7 guy, it gets 390 meters of view range all across the board. None of the packages change the turret, so right from stock you have 390 meters of view range. That's pretty good. That's not half bad. There's even some higher tier tanks in tier 7, 8, and 9 that can't boast that much view range. There are some mediums that will hit up to about 400 in I believe tiers 8 and definitely in tier 9. The Centurion in tier 9 gets 410 with the upgraded turret, if I remember correctly, but at tier 7 this tank can fit the role of a scout tank very easily. Now, because it is a scout tank, it will see up to tier 10. It does get scout matchmaking, if I recall correctly. So this first game on Coralia, you can see I'm alone, but we only get managed to score a tier 8 match. So I don't really get much opportunity to harass some high tier bad boys here. Actually, I believe the highest tier game we get will be the next one on Siegfried line. It's just a tier 9 game. So, as you can see, I flanked on the side of this IS-3. I'm able to pen him fairly easily from the side, but in just a second you'll see that he turns his butt to me and I have difficulty penetrating him, let alone even hitting his weak spots. He's angled pretty well, to be totally honest. Now, this is a fairly untrained crew, and you can tell because I don't have Sixth Sense, so Sixth Sense is usually one of the first skills, if not the first skill that I train on new scout tanks, medium tanks in particular. So as you can see, I had a lot more difficulty even scratching him from the front there, so I hide behind the rock and force manual reload anyways. So now the AMX 1375, one thing to point out is the first two engines are somewhat lacking in horsepower compared to the final engine, and if you ask me, that is the bigger upgrade in the packages, because if I remembering the packages correctly, you pretty much keep the stock gun for the first upgrade, but it upgrades the engine, so this thing boots around more easily. Now with this final package upgrade, you get the final engine and the final gun, which is a really nice bonus. This thing can kick up to 65 kilometers per hour on flat ground, no problem. It turns decently enough, it accelerates okay. It reminds me of the Leopard 1. Out of all the tier 10 medium tanks, in terms of handling, it reminds me of the Leopard 1. because it tops out at 65. The traverse is okay, and it accelerates up to about 30 or 40 pretty quickly, and then you have to have a fair distance of either flat or downhill going before you start going up to 65. But it can get up there no problem. So handles really nicely. The gun handling is pretty good. It's very similar to the ELC in terms of gun handling. As you can see, it's accurate. It has decent pen, but the aim time is really slow for my liking in particular. As I've said before, I'm used to tanks like the FV215B or the T62A, which have really good aim times. In fact, the British 20-pounder guns, the British 17-pounder guns, 20-pounder guns, those all have really good aim times. You can get those down any line of the British tech tree, and you can see what I'm talking about, especially the 20-pounder with the Mark B barrel. That's an incredible gun. It might not look like it, but it really is. Okay, so now we're jumping onto the Siegfried line, and as you can see, I'm platooned with my buddy Icev again. He's playing his IS-3. So it threw us into a tier 10. It threw us into a tier 9 game. I'm just having trouble. Throws us into a tier 9 game. I'll take a couple pot shots at an E75 a little later on here. You'll see it in the next minute or two. But it's angled too well for me to reliably pen it. So that is, as I said, a bit of an issue with this gun. You can't fly in front of a tank like in the ELC and just point and shoot and pretty much guarantee a damaging hit on certain parts of the tank. You just can't. This gun in comparison does not have the kind of pen that you can do that. So even though you are a scout first, your second role of being a harasser tank also doubles up to the fact that you want to double up on flanking as well, because you can't really take tanks on. You can't take other tanks head on because you won't have the penetration to damage them. Not only that, but you don't have the armor or the hit points in order to do it. I mean, this thing has 900 hit points. It does get 50% more hit points than the AMX 12T, which is the tier 6. So that's a bit of an improvement. From the ELC jumping from 400 to 600 hit points with the 12T, that's a 50% HP increase, and then it jumps another 50% to 900 HP with the 1375. So it's definitely getting up there in the HP count. So that's pretty nice. So at this point, I'm just trying to scout down this end of the town. There's not really anything going on. I'm just trying to get a forward position, discover what is in store for the heavies that are going into town. As I said, I want to be a scout first. That's my primary function right now. I don't want to overexert myself and go mindlessly attacking things just yet. Like this T-29, I get one shot off from them, and I leave it at that, because then my detector goes off. This T-29 that I just detected was staring at me and aiming in, and I didn't notice until the very end. So I was actually very lucky I didn't get blasted by him right there. So I forced a manual reload, and I see that Icev is in serious trouble here. He's getting chased by an E75. He ends up running into a pack of worse crap. You'll see it in just a minute. So now, with me backing off there's a T-29 that's hull down and a T-95 in front of me. There's no reason for me to go fighting that. There just isn't. And this ties into something that playing these tanks will, or should, start to kind of instruct to you. So I can't pen that E75. He's just angled too well for my puny ass gun, pretty much. So I force another manual reload, and Icev is in deep dirt. It's pretty much hopeless for anybody to go diving in and trying to save him, because they'll just die with him. So unfortunately, he's gone. I'm a little annoyed with that, so I'll try and get a little revenge here, and it ends up costing me a shot. So something that this tank should teach you or help you learn is not to overextend yourself too early in the game. You want to maintain as much of your HP as possible preferably all. So I'd take 2 shots. That should have been my cue to just leave, but no, I took a very unnecessary hit from that T20 there. I managed to do 120 damage to him while he dropped my total hit points by almost a third, dealing almost 250 HP. That was just me being dumb. That was me overextending myself to a small extent. It was very unnecessary. Now, the reason why I say you don't really want to overexert yourself early in the game is because the later games is when this tank and tanks further down the line will really start to strut their stuff, because when each team is down to 4 or 5, maybe 6 tanks left over in the game, most of them will be damaged and or crippled, but if you play smart and play safe, you should still have full HP, allowing you to take a couple hits if it ends up being necessary while you brawl it out. So it pays off in the end, because with a 6 round, in this tank in particular, with a 6 round drum, you can finish off 2, even 3 severely damaged tanks in pretty much the blink of an eye. And in the meantime, you still got half your hit points after taking 1 or 2 hits, possibly, right? So, okay, so it's reaching the 5-minute mark here. We're up 10-5. So I'm going arty hunting at this point, because I know that the heavy is over there in town, and he actually gets killed right at that point. I know where the 2 mediums are. And artillery is not what's in the flag, because I detected the T-95 there earlier, and it's T-95. It's not going to move anywhere too quickly, so the T-95 is what's on the flag. So I know that arty is somewhere on the ridge to my left. So I go in and I try to help out this heavy, the one that just said he's reloading, but he gets taken out, and then arty hits the E50. So I take a quick peek. The T20 is practically 2 shots, so I know I can take him on. I know I can survive a hit from him and finish him off. So I just want to knock his gun out of the game at this point. So that's what I'm talking about. Overexerting yourself. I had more than enough hit points that I could literally just pull right in front of him, take a hit, and plug him with 2 rounds to finish him off and take his gun out of the game permanently. So I see the cap timers getting to the 1-minute mark, and arty gets spotted, so I figure, okay, I don't need to go for arty now. So somewhere along the way here, the T-95 spots me around the corner there, and that's how he's waiting for me and how he's able to blast me around this corner. But it works out in the end, because he's still got 5 mobile tanks plus 3 artillery to contend with. So we do end up winning that one, but as I said, I probably could have survived that hit if I didn't take that really early hit from that T-20 there. So moving on, this game on Prokhorovka is actually the game where I earned the Ace Tanker Mastery badge for the AMX 1375. I felt pretty good about that one. I didn't feel like I did much in the gameplay, and it won't look like I do much, but I actually racked up a good decent amount of spotter damage, I guess because most of these other tanks, there's a lot of mediums that come up to the front here with us. There's 2 Comets and a Cromwell that are platooned, and you'll see the Cromwell just do a suicide charge, I guess, trying to get some spots or something like that. And even with the 2 Comets up front here, between me and Icev, we get most of the spotter damage in this game. I'm not exactly sure how. I'll attribute it to the fact that I have optics on this tank. I have optics on everything. So, as I said, this crew is not fully trained, so that could be part of the reason why the aim time is atrocious. But I don't think it would get much better even with a fully trained crew. So I got a free pot shot on the enemy 1375, and I think can I get another one? Nope, I'd have to expose myself way too much and potentially get blasted by a tank just trying to get back there. Like I said, I don't want to overexert myself and take unnecessary damage too early. I want to maintain as high an HP pool as possible until the end of the game, when I can pounce like an annoying assassin scorpion or something like that and just finish off some super weak tanks and just make them want to hate me. I hate this tank. So I'm zipping around here. This is where the Cromwell just says screw it, going in. I'm not sure what he was thinking. I was in party chat with Icev, so we couldn't hear what they were saying. But he goes in, he gets blasted, but he spots a bunch of things along the way, so kudos, I guess. Now, like I said, I have optics on this tank. I also have a toolbox because I don't have any skills on this tank, including repairs. And like I said in the ELC video, I'll throw a toolbox on until I learn repairs. Normally I'll throw on a large repair kit as well, but I felt it's not really necessary this time around. If I get tracked and it's a bad enough situation, I can just repair my tracks with a small repair kit. So I peek over, there's a jumbo Sherman down to 1 shot, and then nobody's looking at me, so I figure I'll get a couple pot shots. Second shot finally hits its mark, pens him, takes him out of the game. So there's the GW Panther artillery. And whenever this happens, I get tunnel vision. I kind of blocked that comet there, but he felt it was his fault. So I appreciate that. With the GW Panther spotted, he gets taken out pretty early too, which is excellent. Excellent. Now somehow we got a light tank in the back there, and he's spotting pretty much everybody else. So that works out okay. So anyways, along with optics and toolbox, I threw vents on this tank to increase the view range as much as possible. So with the base 390, even with an untrained crew, the base 390 plus optics and vents, I figure I have maybe 410, 420 meters of view range. That's pretty decent. There's some tier 10 tanks that have that much as their base amount. Not a lot. That's a pretty decent view range for a tier 7 scout tank, if I will say. There's a lot of tanks that you'll see at in the appropriate battle tiers that you will outspot no problem. Mostly heavies and TDs, obviously, so there are exceptions, but that's whatever. So at this point, I have decided he's going in. There's not very many of them left, so he's going all in. The T-71 just pounces on him for that and tries to make him hate life, but ICEV handles himself pretty well, so I know I can handle this KV-1S. One shot, set him on fire, one more hit to lower his HP even more. Fire eventually kills him, so now I see ICE is having trouble, so I come over and I just hit the right bumper, aim in, knock out that T-71. As I said, I have enough of an HP pool where I could take really stupid hits if I had to. So I force a manual reload here because I know I have time. The T-69, I believe it was, gets taken out, and I see the room was down to 1 shot, and all my teammates are reloading, so I'll just take that. Like I said, it's late in the game. There's lots of damage tanks sitting around. This is when this tank can really come out and shine with its offensive capabilities. You just zip in, plug a tank with 2-3 shots tops, finish him off, zip away, move on to the next one. It works out really well, and it's a very, very handy kind of tactic to pick up on for when you have the BatChat down the road. I've had some monster games in the BatChat where, especially on Prokhorovka, I had one on Prokhorovka where I was able to rack up over 8,000 damage and a little over 8,000 spotter damage, my mistake, and a little over 4,000 actual damage by hanging back, spotting for the massive TDs that was behind me, who just blasted the crap out of everything. And once they were down to about 5 tanks, I was able to actually zip in. 2 of them were pretty unhurt, and I was still able to clip them with 1,500 damage, and it was just a really awesome game. So at this stage, I actually had a fair chunk of spotter damage. Both me and ICEV did. I didn't have a lot of damage, but I was able to finish off 4 tanks, as you can see. So like that's nothing to complain about. This has been a good game so far, and they're down to 2 tanks. We're up 13-6, so I just drove right past the cap circle and said there's no reason to cap. There's a 1-shot T-71 that just got spotted. I thought he might be going for the base, so I said defend the base, but that's not what he's doing. So I come over, I'm just trying to weaken the T-32 some, but I see he's looking at me. I don't want to take an unnecessary hit because I'm getting greedy. So I put 2 shots into him, I back off. I don't want to take too much damage. So force a manual reload here. That's a really nice thing about the AMX 1375 is it reloads about as quickly as an ELC AMX does, but you get 6 shots every time you do it. The ELC AMX had that 12-second reload with the 90mm gun, and that's just 1 shot. This thing gets 6. Might not be as much alpha damage, but you essentially have 3 times the potential burst damage. So the T-71 got 2 hits on me right there because I got a little bit greedy with the T-32. I'm just trying to weaken him some more. So I force a manual reload, and by looking at the cap timer, I know I'll have about 10 seconds
when the reload finishes, I'll have about 10 seconds to actually get in there and kill them. I want the team. I want to maximize my damage output as best as I can. So I say, screw it, I'm all in. I spot everybody, lock on the T-32. Pop, there's one, and I hit a bump that makes me miss the second one, so I stop, aim in, guarantee that I kill him. Now, I aim in on T-71, that one misses, and I get a second one in the chamber, but it doesn't fire for whatever reason, so I would complain, but that already smokes him, so it works out pretty well. Anyways, that's some AMX 1375 gameplay. That was 3 okay games, I guess. This is a game on Cliff where, like I said, I exerted myself way too early. It's still the first minute and a half. All the tanks are still alive. So, enjoy watching me get blasted by this awful Panther really early in the game. So, there'll be one more video coming before the BatChat. Hope to see you then. Take care, guys.